The unexpected declaration. Dr. Ilara Chen stood frozen before the holographic display, her coffee mug slipping from her fingers and shattering on the floor of the lunar observatory. The news ticker scrolling across the bottom of the screen seemed surreal, impossible. Galactic Federation, HFY War on Earth. All diplomatic hitayis CV. For centuries, humanity had been a proud member of the Galactic Federation, a coalition of advanced alien civilizations spanning the Milky Way. Earth had worked tirelessly to prove itself worthy of membership, advancing its technology and philosophy by leaps and bounds. Now, in an instant, it all seemed to be crumbling away. "This has to be a mistake," Ilara muttered, her fingers flying across the holographic keyboard as she sought confirmation from other sources. But every channel, every feed showed the same dire news. The Galactic Federation, Earth's mentor and protector for over 300 years, had turned against them. As the information spread, panic gripped the planet. In New York, Tokyo, and Lagos, people poured into the streets, their faces a mixture of confusion and fear. Governments scrambled to respond, issuing statements of calm while frantically trying to contact their ambassadors on Centauri Prime, the Federation's capital world. But all channels of communication had gone dark. The quantum entanglement relays, which had allowed instantaneous communication across light years, fell silent. Earth was alone, cut off from its colonies and allies scattered throughout nearby star systems. In Washington, D.C., President Adama Nkrumah called an emergency meeting of her cabinet and top military advisors. The tension in the Situation Room was palpable as she entered, her usual confident stride replaced by a worried frown. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite the circumstances, "we face an unprecedented crisis. I need options, and I need them now." General Zhang Wei, the head of Earth's defense forces, stepped forward. "Madam President, our first priority must be to recall our fleets and fortify our defenses. The Federation's military capabilities far outstrip our own. If they launch a full-scale invasion, we'll need every ship and every soldier to have a fighting chance." "And what of our off-world colonies?" asked Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Secretary of Extraterrestrial Affairs. "Mars, Europa, Titan, they're even more vulnerable than Earth. We can't just abandon them." President Nkrumah nodded grimly. "We won't abandon anyone, but we need to understand what we're dealing with. Does anyone have any idea why the Federation would turn on us like this? We've been nothing but cooperative, contributive members for centuries." Uncomfortable silence fell over the room. It was Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the chief xenoanthropologist, who finally spoke up. "Madam President, I may have a theory. It's going to sound crazy." "At this point, Doctor, I'm open to crazy," Nkrumah replied. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "There's an old legend among some of the elder races of the Federation. They speak of an ancient artifact called the Nexus Key, said to have the power to control the very fabric of space-time. Most dismiss it as a myth, but I've been tracking references to it in various alien cultures for years. If the Federation believes we've somehow discovered the key—" "That's preposterous," General Zhang interrupted. "We have no such artifact. Surely the Federation wouldn't start a war over a fairy tale." "Wouldn't they?" Rodriguez countered. "Think about it. If such a device existed, it would grant nearly godlike power to whoever wielded it. The Federation has always been nervous about humanity's rapid advancement. Maybe they're not willing to risk us finding it first." President Nkrumah leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. "Even if you're right, Elena, how does this help us? We can't hand over something we don't have." "No," Rodriguez agreed, "but it gives us a place to start. If we can prove we don't have the key, maybe we can stop this war before it begins." As the discussion continued, halfway across the world in the Gobi Desert, something stirred beneath the sands. In a long-forgotten bunker, sealed for millennia, a faint light began to pulse. The events set in motion by the Federation's declaration were about to take an even more unexpected turn. Back in Washington, President Nkrumah made her decision. All right, here's what we're going to do. General Zhang, begin our defensive preparations immediately. Dr. Tanaka, I want you to coordinate with our off-world colonies. Make sure they're ready for potential attacks. And Dr. Rodriguez, I'm giving you full authority to investigate this Nexus key. If there's even a chance it exists, we need to know about it. As the meeting adjourned, Nkrumah turned to her chief of staff. Prepare a global address. The people deserve to know what we're facing. Hours later, President Nkrumah stood before a bank of cameras, her face broadcasted to every corner of the Earth and its colonies. My fellow citizens, she began, her voice calm but resolute, today, we face a challenge unlike any in our history. The Galactic Federation, our longtime ally and mentor, has declared war upon us. A collective gasp seemed to echo around the world as she continued. We do not yet know the full reasons for this sudden hostility, but I assure you, we are working tirelessly to understand and resolve this conflict. In the meantime, we must prepare ourselves. Our military stands ready to defend our homes, our families, and our way of life. I call upon each and every one of you to remain calm and united. Humanity has faced great trials before, and we have always emerged stronger. We will weather this storm together, and we will show the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit. As Nkrumah's words rang out across the planet, they reached the ears of Zara Khan, a brilliant young engineer working on Mars. Zara had always been fascinated by the ancient ruins scattered across the Red Planet, ruins left by a long-vanished alien civilization. Now, as she listened to the president's speech, her eyes widened in sudden realization. "Oh my God," she whispered, scrambling for her tablet. The symbols she'd been studying for months, the ones no one had been able to decipher, they weren't just random markings. They were a map leading to something hidden in the Gobi Desert on Earth. As Zara began composing an urgent message to her superiors, she had no way of knowing that her discovery would soon plunge her into the heart of the conflict that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. On Centauri Prime, in the towering spires of the Federation capital, High Counselor Zixax watched the human president's speech with cold, calculating eyes. So, the alien leader mused, multiple appendages twitching in agitation. They claim ignorance. Perhaps they truly don't know what they possess. An aide approached, bowing low. "High Counselor, our fleets are in position. We await your command to begin the invasion." Zixax was silent for a long moment, compound eyes reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. "No," the High Counselor finally declared. "We will give them one standard rotation to surrender the key. Let them feel the weight of our threat. If they do not comply, then we will show them the true might of the Federation." As the aide scurried away to relay the orders, Zixax turned back to the view screen, watching the blue-green orb of Earth spinning serenely in the void. "Oh, humans," the alien leader murmured, "if only you knew the power that sleeps beneath your feet. For the good of the galaxy, we cannot allow you to wake it." The first day of the war had passed, and not a single shot had been fired. But across the vastness of space, on Earth and 100 other worlds, the pieces were moving into place for a conflict that would reshape the very foundations of the galaxy. Uncovering the truth. The red dust of Mars swirled around Zara Khan as she raced across the barren landscape in her rover. Her heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and fear. The message she had sent to Earth about her discovery in the ancient Martian ruins had been met with an immediate and unexpected response. A top-secret military transport was on its way to pick her up. As she crested a hill, she saw the sleek, black ship touching down on the landing pad of the small research outpost. A figure in a protective suit emerged from the ship and waved her over. Zara brought the rover to a stop and quickly donned her own suit before stepping out onto the Martian surface. "Dr. Khan," the figure asked, voice distorted by the suit's communication system. "I'm Colonel Aiden Chen. We need to leave immediately. Earth is waiting for your report. Within minutes, they were aboard the ship, breaking through Mars' thin atmosphere. As soon as they were in space, Colonel Chen removed his helmet and fixed Zara with an intense stare. Tell me everything you know about this map you found. Zara took a deep breath and began to explain. The ruins we've been studying on Mars. They're not Martian in origin. They were left by a race far older, a race that seems to have had contact with ancient Earth civilizations. The symbols I deciphered, they point to a location in the Gobi Desert. I think that's where the Nexus Key is hidden. Chen's eyes widened. The Nexus Key? You mean that's real? Before Zara could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The pilot's voice came over the intercom, tense and urgent. Colonel, we've got company. Federation ships just dropped out of FTL. They're on an intercept course. Chen cursed under his breath. Can we outrun them? Negative, sir. They'll overtake us before we reach the soul jump point. Chen turned to Zara, his face grim. Dr. Khan, I hope you're good at improvising. Because we're about to be boarded by the very aliens who declared war on us, and you're the only one who knows where this key might be. As the Federation ships drew closer, Zara's mind raced. She thought back to the symbols, the map, trying to recall every detail. There had to be something, some clue that could help them now. Suddenly, she remembered a recurring pattern in the ruins, a series of concentric circles with strange markings between them. Colonel, she said, her voice shaking slightly, I have an idea. But you're going to have to trust me. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was leading a team into the Gobi Desert. The coordinates Zora had sent before her abrupt departure led them to a seemingly unremarkable patch of sand and rock. But as they set up their equipment, strange readings began to appear on their instruments. It's like nothing I've ever seen, muttered Dr. Aisha Patel, the team's physicist. These energy signatures, they're bending space-time itself. Rodriguez nodded, her excitement building. Whatever's buried here, it's big, and I'd bet my career it's what the Federation is after. As they prepared to begin excavation, a low rumble filled the air. The team looked up to see a massive Federation ship descending from the clouds, its weapons primed and ready. A booming voice echoed across the desert. Humans, you will cease your activities immediately and surrender the Nexus Key. This is your final warning. Rodriguez stood tall, facing the ship. We don't have your key. We're just beginning to understand what's here. If you'd just talk to us. Her words were cut off by a blinding flash of light. When it faded, a tall, insectoid alien stood before them, flanked by armed guards. It was High Counselor Zigzax himself. Dr. Rodriguez, Zigzax said, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Your reputation precedes you. I had hoped to avoid this confrontation, but you leave us no choice. The Nexus Key cannot be allowed to fall into human hands. But why? Rodriguez demanded. What are you so afraid we'll do with it? Zigzax's compound eyes seemed to shimmer with an emotion Rodriguez couldn't quite identify. Was it fear? You don't understand the power you're dealing with. The key doesn't just control space and time. It can rewrite reality itself. In the wrong hands, it could unmake the entire universe. As Zigzax spoke, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Sand shifted, revealing glimpses of an enormous structure buried beneath the desert. The Nexus Key was awakening. Back in space, Zara's plan was in motion. As the Federation boarding party breached the airlock, she and Colonel Chen stood ready, a holographic projection flickering between them. The alien soldiers burst in, weapons raised, only to stop short at the sight before them. The hologram showed a complex series of interlocking circles and alien script, a perfect replica of the map Zora had discovered. Stop, Zora shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. This map doesn't just lead to the key. It's the control mechanism. One wrong move, and the key's location will be lost forever. The alien commander hesitated, clearly unsure. Explain, it demanded. Zara took a deep breath. The ancients who hid the key were clever. They knew someone might try to take it by force, so they linked its location to this map. If the wrong sequence is input, or if the map is destroyed, the key will be teleported randomly across the galaxy. You'll never find it. It was a bluff, of course. Zara had no idea if any of what she was saying was true. But it was based on the patterns she'd observed in the ruins, and she prayed it would be enough to give them pause. The alien commander conferred quickly with its superiors. After a tense moment, it turned back to Zara. You will come with us. You will help us retrieve the key. Chen started to protest, but Zara cut him off. I'll go, she said, meeting the alien's gaze steadily, but only if you guarantee the safety of this ship and its crew. As Zara was led away, Chen watched helplessly. He knew he had to get back to Earth, to warn them about what was happening. But he also knew that the fate of humanity might now rest in the hands of a young archaeologist who had just bluffed her way onto an alien warship. In the Gobi Desert, the buried structure continued to rise from the sand, its true scale becoming apparent. It wasn't just a building. It was an entire city, untouched for millennia. And at its center, pulsing with otherworldly energy, was a small, unassuming cube, the Nexus Key. Zixax reached out towards it, but Rodriguez stepped in his way. Wait, she said, her mind racing. You said this thing could rewrite reality. How do you know activating it won't destroy everything? We need to study it, to understand it. The High Counselor hesitated, his earlier certainty wavering. The legends, they speak of great power, but also great danger. As they argued, neither noticed a small drone-like device hovering at the edge of the excavation. In a hidden bunker thousands of miles away, a figure shrouded in shadow watched the feed with great interest. At last, the figure murmured, "Everything is falling into place." The stage was set. The Nexus Key had been found. But as forces converged on the ancient city rising from the desert, one question remained: who would ultimately wield the power to reshape reality itself, and at what cost? Preparing for battle. The ancient city in the Gobi Desert hummed with an otherworldly energy, its spires reaching towards the sky like accusing fingers. At its heart, the Nexus Key pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and High Counselor Zixax stood transfixed, the enormity of their discovery momentarily overriding the hostility between their species. We can't just leave it here, Rodriguez said, breaking the silence. If it's as powerful as you say, it's a danger to the entire planet. Zixax's compound eyes flickered with conflicting emotions. Agreed, but moving it could be equally catastrophic. We need time to study it, to understand its mechanisms. Their uneasy truce was shattered by the screech of alarms. Federation soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. High Counselor, one shouted, we're detecting multiple inbound vessels. They're not ours, and they're not human. As if on cue, the sky split open with a deafening crack. Ships of unfamiliar design poured through the rift, their hulls gleaming with an impossible metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No, Zixax whispered, mandibles clicking in agitation. It can't be. The Void Consortium, they're supposed to be a myth. Rodriguez grabbed the alien leader's arm. What are you talking about? Who are they? The legend, Zixax replied, his voice tight with fear. A group said to exist outside of normal space and time, waiting for the Nexus Key to resurface. If they're real, and they're here. He trailed off, the implications too terrible to voice. As chaos erupted around them, Rodriguez made a split-second decision. She scooped up the Nexus Key, ignoring the jolt of energy that surged through her body. We need to get this out of here. Now. To her surprise, Zixax nodded in agreement. Your ship. It's the last place they'll look. Together, the human scientist and the alien leader raced through the ancient city, dodging weapons fire from the newly arrived ships. They reached the Earth vessel just as the first of the Void Consortium forces touched down. As their ship blasted off, Rodriguez looked out the window at the battle unfolding below. 3 factions, Human, Federation, and the mysterious Void Consortium, locked in a desperate struggle for control of the now empty pedestal where the Nexus key had rested. "We've just changed the game," she murmured, clutching the key tightly. "But I'm not sure if we've made things better or much, much worse." Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Zara Khan found herself in the heart of the Federation's flagship, surrounded by alien technology beyond her wildest imagination. Despite her status as a prisoner, she couldn't help but be awed by what she saw. The alien commander, who had introduced himself as Crix, watched her closely. "You claim to understand the workings of the Nexus key," he said. "Prove it." Zara took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had to keep up the charade, had to make them believe she knew more than she did. "The key isn't just a tool," she began, drawing on everything she had learned from the Martian ruins. "It's a nexus point for all possible realities. The symbols I discovered, they're not just a map. They're a user manual." As she spoke, weaving truth and educated guesses into a compelling narrative, Zara noticed something odd. The aliens were listening to her with rapt attention, yes, but there was something else. A flicker of recognition. Did they know more than they were letting on? Before she could pursue that thought, alarms blared throughout the ship. Crick sparked orders in his native tongue, and the bridge erupted into frenzied activity. "What's happening?" Zara demanded. Crix turned to her, his alien features unreadable. "It seems your people have managed to surprise us once again. They've taken the key." Zara's heart leaped. Somehow, against all odds, humanity had gotten hold of the very thing the Federation had gone to war over. But her elation was short-lived as Crix continued. "But that's not all. We're detecting quantum anomalies throughout the sector. Something is coming. Something big." Back on Earth, President Kruma stood in the newly established war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the unfolding crisis. General Zhang's voice crackled over the comms, relaying the latest intel from the Gobi Desert. "Madam President, the situation has escalated beyond our worst-case scenarios. We're not just dealing with the Federation anymore. This new player, this Void Consortium, they have technology we can't even begin to understand." Nkruma's face was grim. "And the Nexus key?" "Secure, for now. Dr. Rodriguez is bringing it to our top-secret facility in Antarctica, but she reports that it's unstable. The energy readings are off the charts." The president turned to her assembled advisors. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a race against time. We have the key, but we don't know how to use it. The Federation wants it. This consortium wants it, and we have no idea what activating it might do to our reality." She paused, letting the weight of her next words sink in. "As of this moment, I am initiating Protocol Omega. All of Earth's resources, every scrap of technology, every brilliant mind, everything will be devoted to understanding and controlling the Nexus key. It's our only hope of survival." Around the world, the gears of war began to turn. Mothballed defense platforms were reactivated, their weapons arrays bristling in low Earth orbit. In hidden bases beneath the oceans and deep within mountains, experimental technologies were brought online, projects deemed too dangerous or too advanced suddenly becoming humanity's lifeline. But as humanity prepared for a war unlike any in its history, few suspected the true nature of the threat they faced. In the shadows, watched by unseen eyes, the figure who had observed the events in the Gobi Desert smiled. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Nexus key, ancient and inscrutable, pulsed with growing intensity as it was transported to its new home beneath the Antarctic ice. With each pulse, the barriers between realities grew thinner, and in the spaces between moments, something vast and unknowable began to stir. The battle for the fate of not just Earth, not just the galaxy, but all of existence was about to begin. And at the center of it all was a small, unassuming cube that held the power to rewrite the very laws of the universe. As the world held its breath, waiting for the next move in this cosmic chess game, one question burned in the minds of all those who knew the truth. Was humanity ready to wield the power of gods? The first encounter. The skies above Earth crackled with energy as the combined fleets of humanity faced off against the incoming forces of the Galactic Federation and the mysterious Void Consortium. It was a sight that defied imagination. Sleek human ships, their hulls gleaming with newly developed quantum armor, stood alongside hastily retrofitted civilian vessels. Facing them were the organic-looking craft of the Federation, writhing with biomechanical tendrils, and the impossible geometries of the Void Consortium's ships, which seemed to phase in and out of reality. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant, Earth's most advanced battleship. Her eyes scanned the tactical displays, taking in the overwhelming odds they faced. "All ships, maintain formation," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension. "Remember your training. We're not just fighting for Earth today, we're fighting for the very nature of reality itself." As the enemy fleets drew closer, the space around Earth shimmered and warped. The Nexus Key, hidden in its Antarctic bunker, was reacting to the imminent conflict, its power sending ripples through the fabric of space-time. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the readings with growing alarm. "We need to stabilize it," she shouted to her team of scientists. "If the key's energy keeps building like this, it could tear a hole in our universe." Back in space, the battle began in earnest. Federation bioships launched swarms of living missiles, each one a sentient organism programmed to seek and destroy. Human point defense systems lit up the void, creating a dazzling light show as they intercepted the incoming threats. But it was the Void Consortium that proved to be the most terrifying opponent. Their ships moved in ways that defied the laws of physics, appearing and disappearing at will, striking from impossible angles. How do we fight an enemy we can't predict? Captain Miguel Ramos of the ESS Intrepid asked over the comm channel, his voice tight with frustration. Admiral Chen's mind raced, recalling every scrap of information they had gleaned about the key and its powers. The consortium's ships, she realized, they're using technology based on the same principles as the Nexus Key. They're not just moving through space, they're shifting between realities. As if to confirm her theory, a massive consortium vessel suddenly materialized in the heart of Earth's fleet. Before anyone could react, it unleashed a wave of energy that phased several human ships partially out of existence, leaving them drifting, half-real and helpless. "All ships, fall back and regroup," Chen ordered, but even as she spoke, she knew it might be too late. The combined might of the Federation and the consortium was simply too much. Just when all seemed lost, an unexpected ally arrived on the battlefield. A Federation ship, bearing the insignia of High Counselor Zixax, broke formation and moved to join the human fleet. "This is High Counselor Zixax to Earth forces," the alien leader's voice crackled over the comm. "We were wrong about you, and we were wrong about the key. Let us fight together against the true enemy." With the addition of Zixax's advanced ship and the tactical information he provided, the tide of battle began to turn. Human ingenuity, combined with Federation technology, proved to be a formidable match for the consortium's reality-bending abilities. As the space battle raged, Zora Khan was making a daring escape from her captors on the Federation flagship. Using her knowledge of the ship's systems, gleaned from her time as a guest, she managed to reach the hangar bay and commandeer a small scout ship. "I have to warn Earth," she muttered as she input the coordinates for a desperate faster-than-light jump. "The consortium, the key, it's all connected somehow. We're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle." Back in the Antarctic base, Dr. Rodriguez and her team had managed to temporarily stabilize the Nexus Key, but at a cost. The device was now generating a field of distorted space-time that encompassed the entire facility. "We're cut off from the outside world," one of the scientists reported, his voice trembling. "No communications can penetrate this field." Rodriguez stared at the key, its pulsing glow now a steady, ominous light. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," she mused. "Whatever's happening up there, at least the key is safe down here." But even as she spoke, alarms blared throughout the facility. Somehow, despite the space-time distortions, something was trying to break in. In orbit, the battle had reached a fever pitch. The Void Consortium, realizing they were losing their advantage, enacted a desperate gambit. Their flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Federation vessels, began to power up a weapon of unimaginable destructive potential. "They're going to try to crack the planet," Zixax warned, his alien voice filled with horror. "If they can't have the key, they'll destroy Earth to keep anyone else from claiming it." Admiral Chen knew they had only one chance. "All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates," she ordered, highlighting a spot on the consortium flagship that Zixax had identified as a potential weak point. What followed was the largest coordinated attack in human history. Every ship, human and Federation alike, poured all their firepower into a single point on the consortium vessel. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a silent flash that seemed to bend light itself, the massive ship simply ceased to exist. A cheer went up across the human fleet, but Chen knew the battle was far from over. The remaining consortium ships, though in disarray, were still a significant threat, and the Federation forces that hadn't allied with Zixax were regrouping for another assault. As the fighting continued, Zora's stolen ship emerged from its FTL jump, battered but intact. She stared in awe at the massive battle before her, then steeled herself and set a course for Earth. Whatever information she had discovered, she knew it could change the course of this war. In the Antarctic base, Rodriguez and her team had managed to repel the initial incursion, but they knew it was only a matter of time before their defenses failed. As she stared at the Nexus key, pulsing with otherworldly power, an idea began to form. "We've been thinking about this all wrong," she said, her eyes widening with realization. "We don't need to control the key. We need to understand it. And to do that, we need to use it." Her team looked at her in shock. "But Doctor," one protested, "we have no idea what will happen if we activate it." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Exactly. But at this point, I don't think we have a choice. Whatever happens next, it's going to change everything." As she reached out towards the key, its glow intensifying at her touch, the battle above reached a crescendo. In that moment, with humanity's fate hanging in the balance, the true power of the Nexus key was about to be unleashed. The universe held its breath, poised on the edge of transformation, and in the spaces between realities, ancient forces long dormant began to stir, awakened by the conflict that raged across the stars. The first great battle was ending, but the war for reality itself was only just beginning. Turning the tide. In the depths of the Antarctic Research Facility, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the pulsing Nexus key, her hand hovering inches from its surface. The air crackled with potential energy, reality itself seeming to bend around the ancient artifact. With a deep breath, Elena steeled her nerves and placed her palm firmly on the key. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Light erupted from the key, enveloping Elena in a cocoon of pure energy. Her consciousness expanded, stretching across time and space, glimpsing realities beyond imagination. "My God," she whispered, her voice echoing strangely in the transformed space. "It's not a weapon. It's a cosmic tuning fork." As understanding flooded her mind, Elena realized the true purpose of the Nexus key. It wasn't meant to rewrite reality, but to harmonize it, to bring balance to the multiverse. And with that knowledge came power. The power to end the war that threatened to tear reality apart. High above the Earth, the battle raged on. Admiral Sarah Chen's fleet, bolstered by High Counselor Zixax's defectors, fought valiantly against the remaining Void Consortium forces. But despite their recent victory, they were being pushed back, overwhelmed by the Consortium's reality-warping technology. Suddenly, A brilliant beam of light shot up from the Antarctic continent, piercing through the atmosphere and into space. It engulfed the battling fleets, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. In that instant of cosmic stillness, every being involved in the conflict, human, Federation, and consortium alike, experienced a moment of perfect clarity. They saw the universe as it truly was, an intricate, interconnected web of realities, each one vital to the stability of the whole. Admiral Chen gasped as the vision filled her mind. "Stand down," she ordered, her voice filled with awe. "All ships, cease fire immediately." Across the battlefield, weapons fell silent. The Void Consortium ships, their impossible geometries now fully visible, began to retreat, their leaders suddenly aware of the cosmic balance they had been threatening. As the light faded, a new signal came through on all frequencies. It was Dr. Rodriguez, her voice tinged with the echo of cosmic power. "This war ends now," she declared. "The Nexus Key was never meant to be a weapon or a tool for dominion. It's a cosmic mediator designed to maintain balance across all realities, and it's shown us the truth. We're all connected, all part of a greater whole. Our conflict threatens not just our own existence, but the fabric of the multiverse itself." In the stunned silence that followed, Zora Khan's stolen ship finally reached Earth orbit. She had arrived just in time to witness the transformation brought about by the key's activation. "She's right," Zora transmitted, her voice filled with excitement. "The Martian ruins, the legends of the consortium, it all points to this. The ancients who created the key were caretakers of reality itself. They left it behind as a fail-safe, a way to restore balance if the multiverse ever fell into chaos." High Counselor Zixax's voice joined the chorus. "On behalf of the Galactic Federation, I formally declare an end to hostilities with Earth. We were blinded by fear and misunderstanding. Now we see the truth." As the enormity of what had transpired sank in, ships from all sides began to power down their weapons. The immediate threat had passed, but the implications of what they had discovered were only beginning to unfold. In the Antarctic base, Alina slumped to the ground, the cosmic awareness receding from her mind. She felt changed, expanded somehow, as if she had touched the very essence of creation and come back transformed. "Doctor," one of her assistants said, helping her to her feet, "what do we do now?" Elena looked at the Nexus Key, still glowing softly but no longer pulsing with barely contained power. "Now," she said, her voice weary but filled with purpose, "we learn. We've been given a glimpse of the universe's greatest secrets. It's our responsibility to understand them, to become the caretakers the ancients intended us to be." In the days that followed, an uneasy peace settled over the galaxy. The Void Consortium retreated to the edges of known space, their true nature and intentions still a mystery. The Galactic Federation, humbled by the revelations brought by the key, extended an offer of true partnership to humanity. On Earth, President Nkrumah stood before the United Nations, addressing not just her fellow humans, but representatives from across the galaxy. "We stand at a turning point in cosmic history," she declared. "We have been given a responsibility greater than any we could have imagined. The Nexus Key has shown us that our conflicts, our differences, are insignificant in the face of the vast, interconnected multiverse. From this day forward, we commit ourselves not to war, not to dominion, but to understanding and preserving the cosmic balance." As the speech concluded, the assembled representatives erupted into applause. A new era was dawning, one of exploration, cooperation, and cosmic stewardship. But in the shadows, unnoticed by the celebrants, a figure watched with keen interest. It was the same entity that had observed the events in the Gobi Desert, that had manipulated events from behind the scenes. "Well played," the figure murmured, a smile playing across its alien features. "You've taken your first steps into a larger universe. But the game is far from over." As the figure faded from view, its final words lingered in the air. The true test is yet to come. In the Antarctic facility, the Nexus key pulsed once, as if in response to some unseen stimulus. Elena Rodriguez, now Earth's foremost expert on the artifact, looked up from her work, a shiver running down her spine. "Did you feel that?" she asked her team. They shook their heads, puzzled by her reaction. Elena turned back to the key, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that despite everything they had learned, despite the peace they had achieved, they had only scratched the surface of the cosmic mysteries that lay ahead. As the sun set on this new era of galactic cooperation, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if welcoming humanity to its new role as guardians of cosmic balance. But in the vast expanse of the multiverse, ancient forces stirred, awaiting the next move in a game beyond mortal comprehension. The war was over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.